Congressman Steny Hoyer. He's the Democratic Minority Whip and represents the state of Maryland. Nice to have you with us, sir. We certainly appreciate your time. Give me a sense.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you. Give me a sense of what you think of this dinner between GOP senators and the president, and what was genuinely accomplished out of this coming together.
Well, I don't know what was genuinely accomplished, frankly, but I think it was a positive sign. I think the senators that went obviously wanted to talk to the president about whether or not they could reach common ground on a lot of very important issues, including, most importantly, a compromise that we could get this country on a fiscally sustainable path and have what is we call a big deal, a la Bowles-Simpson. But the fact of the matter is that the mere fact of meeting, talking, discussing, and the fact that the senators came out and said it was a positive meeting, I think it's a good sign. But we need a lot more than that, of course. We need substance as well as discussion.
Earlier I was talking to Senator Dan Coates, and he was telling me that the tone of the dinner was fairly friendly. I want to play a little bit of what he said. Oh, it looks like actually I don't have that. So my apologies for that. But he did say it wasn't contentious, because I was sort of joking with him about it could have potential, considering how nasty some of these discussions have gotten. It had the potential to be very contentious and very unpleasant. And he said no, it was actually very civil. But of course, as you point out, it's the first step. So then what's the second step? I mean, once this go beyond a really nice, friendly dinner?
The second step is, I think we have to come to grips with the fact that if you're going to solve the fiscal problem confronting us, the budget problems confronting us, getting this country on a stable path, it's got to be along the lines of all of these commissions have been bipartisan. Simpson-Bowles, Domenici-Rivlin, Gang of Six, which were 6 senators, saying you've got to have a balanced way forward. That means you've got to cut spending, you've got to look both at discretionary spending, you've got to look at entitlement spending, but you also have to look at revenues. And if you put those together, we can get to where we need to be. These discussions, I'm sure, involved what has been the real point of contention, and that is whether or not we need a balance of revenues. There clearly is great support for cuts in spending. There's contention about entitlements, and there's contention about revenues, and I'm sure those discussions involved those two items. We passed a budget, frankly, not a continuing resolution to fund government going forward, which frankly wasn't bipartisan at all. Adopted numbers which are going to hurt the economy, and CBO says that we're going to lose 750,000 jobs over the next 18 months. That obviously was not consensus seeking. Hopefully, as we move forward, as these Senate talks with the president clearly envision but haven't realized, we're going to have bipartisan agreement if we're going to get this country on a stable path. Stop having this crisis every 60 days or 90 days or 120 days.
Yeah, well, I'm sure everybody would appreciate
That's not good.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. All right, let me ask you a quick question about Senator Rand Paul, who went on this long 12-plus hour-long filibuster. While everybody was eating dinner, he was sort of snacking on candy bars to keep up his energy. He was referring to the Attorney General's comments about drones, and the Attorney General Holder said it was possible, I suppose, he said, to imagine an extraordinary circumstance in which it would be necessary and appropriate under U.S. law for the president to authorize the use of lethal force within the United States, basically a drone attack within the United States, potentially on an American.
Right. First of all, I think this is a serious question, and I've said this in the past, that the Congress ought to look at, the administration needs to consider. We need to come up with an agreement on what this policy ought to be. Very frankly, the fact that we had a live filibuster, if you will, so the American people could see the positions being taken, as opposed to some sort of private filibuster which simply says to the leader of the Senate, look, we're going to filibuster this, unless you have 60 votes, don't bring it up, where the American people never see the substance of objection or proponents or opponents. So I think to that extent, I'd like to see not more filibusters, but at least the American public seeing what questions are being raised.
Understand
but this is a serious issue, and I think that we need to look at it. We need to look at it from a policy standpoint. But let me make the observation, Soledad, that a drone is a weapon of a weapon. just like a gun. It's more sophisticated, it can go more places, but clearly I'm sure what the Attorney General was speaking of, if in fact there was a terrorist act, even if it was a terrorist act being committed by a U.S. citizen, he did not want to preclude any opportunities that we have to prevent that terrorist act or during the course of that terrorist act, taking out those who are perpetrating it. So, but I think
he did say it was hypothetical. That was his comments. Steny Hoyer, Congressman, nice to have you with us this morning. We certainly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Soledad, thank you.
You bet.